everyone, welcome back to Hanna Worldwide and Friends, the podcast about living abroad. If you live abroad, or you love to travel, or you are interested in different countries and cultures, this podcast is for you. Also, if you always wanted to live abroad, but you haven't found the courage yet, this podcast might inspire you. Just follow me on Instagram or hit the bell button in Spotify to get updated on new episodes. Listen to Hanna Worldwide and Friends on Spotify, Apple Podcast, or wherever you get your podcast. Hi everyone, please welcome with me Rajni Adhikari from Mumbai, India. Rajni left India in 2019 to study at the Lincoln University near Christchurch, New Zealand. She then moved to the North Island of the country where she's now living with her partner. Hello Rajni.
Hi Hanna, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for coming today.
Thank you for inviting me. This is a pleasure. Thank you.
I'm so excited to be able to talk to you about your story and to then share your story. So let's dive right in, shall we?
Yes, let's go.
Why did you leave your country, India, to come to New Zealand in the first place? And why did you decide on New Zealand?
Okay, so ever since I was a kid, I've, known that I wanted to go out of India. To know what exactly I wanted to do in my life, because it has always been a dream. My father, who was in the Navy, so he used to travel the world. He's been to so many countries, and that used to excite me a lot.
Yeah.
Even after he retired from Navy, he used to work for different companies and would still travel a lot of other countries outside of India, and would bring us so many presents, and he would tell us so much about the place, and that always got me excited. My friends and families, like close family friends, were also a few of them living outside of India, and so that was basically like a very exciting point for me to just go outside of India someday, experience new things, experience the lifestyle, the culture, the food. So as a kid, I always knew that I wanted to go out. I just didn't know where to go, where I would go, where I would land, when I would go. And I guess as the years passed by and I had so many people influence me in my life. I think during my bachelor's, I saw so many of my seniors getting out of India to do their masters. So that's when the whole plan started brewing, that, everybody is actually going outside.
Yeah.
Maybe that is the start to a new adventure. Maybe that is how it could start for me too. So I guess that was one point where I decided that, okay, let's make this serious. Like, if I want to achieve my dream of going out, I have to get serious. And during my 4 years of bachelor's, I listed actually a few countries where I wanted to go. New Zealand was one of them. Ireland was one of them. I also had one of the countries being the UK in one of my lists. So those were the countries that actually excited me. And I've also had this zeal that I would go on internet and look at different pictures and different locations of these places and just be mesmerized by the places and what they look like. With my father being in the Navy, we've traveled around a lot in India. So I have always also enjoyed traveling. So I think it all just came together eventually, and it worked out for me. And I landed in New Zealand a few years later and successfully. And in 2018, when I graduated from my bachelor's, I decided it was finally time to execute this plan. And I decided to go to New Zealand because it's such a beautiful country, and I've always dreamed of it, like living here, or like, Southern Alps, or
Yeah.
it kind of reminded me of Switzerland. So
Aww.
so I guess that was one other attraction to me.
Yeah.
So I think studying here was like the next step of
Growing into that
growing
direction.
into, yeah, and also leaving my country behind and then just moving on to a new adventure.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Would you think that because of your dad being in the Navy and you guys already traveling so much when you were younger, that it was easier also for your mom to kind of let you go? Because I know for my mom it was harder.
Yeah.
But no one from my family has ever really left the country to live somewhere else. So
Yeah.
for you, do you think your mom was like, how was her reaction when you decided you want to study overseas and you kind of probably already knew you also are interested in living overseas, not just for studies?
Yeah. So that's another funny story. As a kid, I used to like very blatantly tell my parents that, you know what, when I grow up, I will move out of the country. I will leave you and I'll live in a different country. That is my dream. And I always used to talk about going to Canada for the longest time because my family friends, like everybody would mention about Canada.
Yeah.
So that was the only place I knew as a kid. But as I grew up, obviously I knew about different places. So in my mind, and as I would tell my parents, I prepared them since I was a kid that I will be leaving the country. And compared to my sister, they knew that I was more independent and more of a go-getter.
Yeah.
So I could do things on my own. So they were more happy to let me go.
Yeah.
I did have to convince my parents a little bit that I'm ready. I can go. I can do this all on my own.
Yeah.
So pretty much I had to prove them from graduation until getting to New Zealand that I can do this on my own.
Yeah.
And when they gained that confidence, they were really happy that, my daughter actually can go out, can be on her own. So I don't think it was that big of a deal, but obviously my mom was crying when she was at the airport seeing me off.
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess that's just a parent's.
Yeah. Absolutely. It would be probably weird if it would be not like this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
In fact, my dad cried too, and that's the first time like I've seen him cry, and that's when it hit me that, oh shit, I'm actually leaving my parents. Yeah. So that was the first big change and first big, you can say, a realization that I'm leaving my comfort zone. I'm leaving my people and going to a different country altogether. Like I have nobody there. I know no one there.
Yeah.
But it all settled once I reached. It just felt so natural being here. Like I just felt at home, although I don't even know where home is anymore. Yeah.
Oh, that's such a great way of describing it. Because, like, people say usually home is where your heart is.
Yeah.
Or home is where your people are. Or all of these things. But I also felt in New Zealand a sense of feeling like home.
Yeah.
And I remember I came in 2018 in September, and my first time going back home was in July 2019.
Yeah.
And I remember I really missed New Zealand, which was so weird because
True.
but it already got me feeling like this is my place, even though I haven't even spent a year in the country yet. So I kind of
relate with it.
You there.
Yeah, I felt the same thing. Like I went back to India in last year, which was in 2022, which was after 3 years after being in the country. But well, actually I was supposed to go back in 2021 and I couldn't because of COVID, of course.
Yeah.
But yeah, it felt so weird. Like I knew that I was going back to my parents, but somehow I also felt like my home was still back in New Zealand and not in India anymore. But also there were so many changes that had happened in those 3 years when I wasn't in India.
Yeah.
So it felt a bit weird at the start.
Yeah.
And eventually I got around, the changes. But by the time I could actually realize and, come to terms that, everything has changed in India too.
Yeah.
Everything that I left behind has changed. Like, my parents moved houses in the span of 3 years.
Yeah.
We moved from a rental property to our own house in those 3 years. Yeah. So that was another change altogether. My parents were more, you can say, more open with me. Like,
see you as an adult now because you have mastered it.
Exactly.
You moved out.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, can you go a little bit more into detail on how it felt like the first time going back home? What are the changes? And do you feel like, was there a difference between you and your friends after that time?
It surely felt very weird. Like, I cannot describe you. Like, even sitting at the airport, I was still texting people at work. It felt like I'm still working, and because I had just started working here.
Yeah.
So honestly, it just felt very weird.
Yeah.
I couldn't get my head around, like, I'm going back to India. And luckily I had my partner with me, so I could project my anxiety to him, and I stressed him out during it. Exactly. But regarding friends, that's another nice story, because this is the trip that me and my friend who now lives in Germany, we planned together to surprise our best friend who lives in India. So we planned this trip, and we were meant to reach a day before her birthday, and then surprise her on her birthday. And she didn't actually know that we were coming, but due to some problems, I landed first, but my friend couldn't land on the same day.
Yeah.
But we eventually still surprised her. And that was a really nice feeling, because she cried.
Aww.
She cried seeing me, and that was so good. Like, I mean, not that way, because...
I know what you mean, yeah.
But it was such a nice feeling to, like, actually see my friend after so long. To see my sister, she's my baby sister after so long.
Aww.
Although we fight a lot, I could finally, like, hold her and hug her. And I was also very freaked out with the traffic and just the population in general.
Yeah.
Because here in New Zealand, it's so quiet and calm, and you barely see people around when you're out. But back in Bombay, it's only people around and outside. Whenever you go out for a walk, you're in a car, it's just traffic, people.
Yeah.
So that was a bit anxiety stricken, I would say. Like, I did feel crowded.
Yeah.
And like, my family, my sister could see that I'm struggling.
Yeah.
And, well, they kind of joked about me not being very Indian anymore. But, like, even if you live in New Zealand for 3 years and then go back to a very populated country, you would feel that way.
Yeah.
So it was a mixed feeling, mixed emotions that I felt going back to India. I'm surely missing India a lot. I miss the food so much. I cannot wait to go back.
And it has so much culture as
so
well.
Much culture, sometimes I actually miss that.
Yeah.
Celebrating festivals, because that was one thing that I really enjoyed.
Yeah.
Especially Diwali. Diwali is my favorite festival, and coming here, I only got to actually celebrate it once with friends.
Oh, yeah.
So that's the kind of, belonging and community sense that I kind of miss.
Yeah.
And it's so hard to find people that you feel home with here.
I agree. Yeah.
It's that sense of belonging that I miss sometimes.
Yeah.
A lot. So I still keep in touch with my friends and, like, try to, talk to them every other day if I can.
Yeah.
or just catch up whenever, but with the time zone and time differences, it's so difficult.
I know.
Like you would know, right?
Yeah. I feel the same way.
Yeah.
And it's funny how you said that, because I actually just recently thought about it even deeper, because I went out with some friends and they have a big community.
Yeah.
And I have never looked for German people here in the country.
Yeah.
I was always like, nah, I want to get to know the people and I want to get to know everyone from around the world and from New Zealand, and I don't need to have a community. But now I actually start slowly feeling more homesick, and I do think, should I have looked for a community for German people, just so that when you feel homesick, you actually can share like certain festivities or like just some common things which other people might not know, and you can joke about it, or you can eat the same food, or you can just talk in your language, because I barely have that here. My only German friends moved away to Wellington.
Oh my gosh.
So I also now, after 5 years, struggle a little bit that I never really feel that belonging, because I have friends from all over the world and I love them. But sometimes
it's just that there's something missing, like there's a missing piece in the puzzle, you know?
Exactly.
It's like, I talk to my partner about this a lot, because we both are from Bombay, although we've never met in Bombay ever. We met here in New Zealand, and it's so crazy, because when we were together in university, well, not together, but studying.
You studied together.
Yeah. So it's crazy that a lot of people that we met from India, from Bombay, were from the same community, you could say, like from Bombay.
Yeah.
So we understood things. We had the same lingo, same language that we would talk in normally. It's like hanging out with friends, but in a very different country.
Yeah.
So that's the thing that I miss a lot. And once we all graduated from Lincoln, we all moved out to different places.
Yeah.
That was another thing that we missed. So although we moved from India, we reached here in New Zealand, we made that community, and again losing that community that you made here is it's a bit it's really tough. And you miss that, and you sometimes want that, like there is sometimes the only sense of belonging that you feel with, you the comfort that you feel with. Sometimes you can only talk to them in your own language, and that comfort that you really want. Yeah. That's the thing that I miss the most. Yeah. The jokes, the laughs. Yeah, so those are the things that I really, really am longing for and making me really homesick. Yeah. And not having that kind of makes us feel lonely, even though we both have each other.
I completely agree. Honestly, just probably on the weekend I called my mum and I was telling her, Mum, I feel homesick and I feel a little lonely. And she was like, is Nick not there? And I was like, oh, he's here. He's right next to me. And she was like, oh, why do you feel lonely? And I was like, because I don't always just need my partner. I need people who understand me. I need friends to hang out with. I need people you can just quickly go and have a coffee with. Exactly. And not that I drink coffee, but like have a drink, chat, just chill on the couch. And when you have most of your friends who you know for such a long time and they are all in a different country, you kind of look for similarities. Exactly. And that's why when I first came to New Zealand, I got to know quite a few German people traveling around. Yeah. But all of them have been back in Germany now. Oh. So I'm like, oh, I wish, because I created great friendships with them and we had similar experience due to traveling around together or being a backpacker, whatever, living together. And so that was what I missed a lot as well, because I felt like everyone is moving away. Either they are moving to a different city in New Zealand where I can't just get to every now and then, or they are moving completely different countries again. And it's like you have experienced how it can feel.
Yeah.
You felt like more you belong and like home in a new country.
Exactly.
And then it's kind of like spreading out again, and you feel like, oh,
but
where is it?
When you think about it, it's part of a circle, right? Like it's literally a circle of life. Like you left your country, you left your comfort zone to come to a different country, made another community, and then left it again to make another community, like, live somewhere else. And then it just keeps going and on and on and on.
Yeah.
It's tough.
I know, and for me, I know I'm not too good with change all the time, but at one point, and that's really true, you know how they say the only constant in life is change.
Yeah.
So it's true, nothing else is staying, it's always changing, and we need to be okay with it. And I know for myself, I'm struggling sometimes with change. Yeah. Not always. Some things are harder, some are okay. But then I remind myself, as you say, it's a circle of life. Mm-hmm. Things are constantly changing. Nothing will ever stay the same. So, yeah. Coming back to how you felt going home.
Yeah.
Do you feel like any kind of relationship to your parents, to your friends has changed during the time, either because you grew up more and you are more mature now, or you are more independent now? Or do you feel like people have grown, like you have grown apart with people? Like some friends are not the same anymore. You used to get along a lot and now it has changed. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Definitely. So I personally think that I've changed a lot in the past 4.5 years. Like the eccentric person that I was when I left India. Even my best friend who lives in Germany right now, and I had the pleasure to meet her and travel around within Europe with her. She described to my other friends who are also spread out in the world now that Rajni has changed completely. And this is the same girl I met last year in India, who I planned my trip with. And so she described everybody saying that Rajni has calmed down a lot in life, which honestly, I feel it too. Like honestly, the past 2.5 years have been just such a big learning curve for me that I've struggled. I've broken down so many times.
Yeah.
But I've also gotten up and, carried on with my life. So I think whatever change has happened for good.
Yeah.
Because I am more mature now than I was before, than when I left India I was. I understand things from a different perspective now.
Yeah.
And I try to understand and give the person benefit of the doubt now than just taking rash decisions or impulsive decisions, which I used to do before. And I'm trying to understand what kind of a person I was. But it's a good realization. Definitely my parents think that I've changed a lot. Even the last year was visiting them was a big change. I definitely felt that they now knew that I could just go out whenever. Like when I was in India, I used to have a curfew that I have to be back home by this time. When I went back home last year, I did not really have that. And I would just call them and say, Papa, I'll be late. I'm just out with friends. And he's like, yeah, that's okay. Just as long as you're safe. Just come home whenever you can. So that's the kind of freedom that I got after living in a country for 3 years.
Doing whatever you want.
And honestly, my sister saw that and she's like, what? How are you getting this much freedom? You know what? I'm going to go too. And now she lives in Canada.
No way.
Yeah, so she decided to move out to get that sense of freedom and independence.
Isn't that funny?
So that was a very, very funny scenario, but also a very good growth that I've seen in my sister.
Yeah. So you kind of inspire each other.
Yeah, you can say that, yeah.
Nice. How old is your sister?
She's just 1 year 1 year, 2 days younger than me.
Okay, so not because you said baby sister, I was kind of thinking
she is
like
my
really
baby sister.
Fair enough. Totally.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I consider her my baby because I still mothered her when my mother was mothering her. So every time she got beaten up, Indian parents, brown parents, every time she got beaten up, I got beaten up for anything that she did wrong. Because I had to be taught a lesson. I don't know why.
No.
It's funny. Now I can laugh about it.
At that time, probably not so much.
Yeah. At the time, I had to question a lot, like, why am I being punished for something that she did? Yeah, but it's funny. Like, I can tell my friends about it now. Friends from different nationality that, brown parents are like this.
I mean, obviously we don't want to generalize too much.
But yeah, that's the generic scenario that happens in a very common Indian household.
Well, I'm glad you are grown up healthy and good.
Yeah, so we all have grown, progressed personally, and I have also grown apart from a few friends, but it also matters because like it's we account for the time differences that we have now. There's a group of 5 friends that we are very close, and we've been friends for more than 10 years now.
Yeah.
And now that everybody's so spread about, like 2 of them live in the States, one lives in she lives in Germany, and the other one lives in Dubai, and one lives in India. We are literally all in different time zones. It's just so difficult to catch up sometimes. So we all sometimes have that falling out where one has to lash out on, the rest of us.
Yeah.
But then the others understand why it's happening.
Yeah.
We all understand why it's happening. So it's easy to make that person understand, that not everybody has got enough time to... To have time for you all the time. But we try to make time for you as much as we can.
Yeah.
So these are the clashes that we've been seeing very, very often now.
Yeah.
But we try to come to terms together and retaliate our relationship. Like, we don't want to be on bad terms. We've been friends for so long.
Yeah.
So it's, at the end of the day, we all want to catch up again because it's been almost 5 years I've seen my other friends.
Yeah.
So we also have that longing that when will we see each other next, because we used to enjoy each other's quirks so much.
Oh, yeah.
And all of us have gone through so much in the past 4.5 years that, we would really like to see what we have all become now.
Yeah.
And, the changes that we have all personally endured.
Yeah. Do you think if you all would be now going back to India to catch up, that you would just be able to pick up from where you left pretty much? So do you think, even though you all have grown in different ways, once you actually find the time to get together, that it's like yesterday, like you have never really left because it's still kind of fitting?
It's tough to say, isn't it? Because we still talk to each other. We still know what's happening in everybody's life. But it's just so difficult to say, like, what will happen when we meet. Like, one of the friends that we met last year, it just felt so natural because we 3 have known each other longer than the other friends.
Yeah.
We've been friends in school, so we've known each other for the longest time. And we've had our highs and lows. But it still felt very natural. Like, we didn't have a lot to catch up on.
Yeah.
So it felt like we were just back to our normal school days and college days.
Yeah.
So it will be really interesting to see what it is like with other friends who haven't still caught up with yet.
Yeah.
Definitely looking forward to it. We keep making plans every year that we'll catch up at the end of the year. Maybe in a different country, not even India.
Yeah.
but that doesn't happen again because of our so varied time zones and plans again, personal plans. But yeah, it would be. I'm really looking forward to it. Honestly, yeah.
I really hope that works out. So I wish you all the best that you actually get all together.
Thank you.
And no one needs to miss out.
I know.
I think those friendships are the nicest. And I mean, you can never really tell if someone is actually moving away and growing in different directions, because what is important is you build friendship out of the time you spend together and the experience and memories you make. And so I always wondered, the 10 to 15 years I know my friends, is that enough to now kind of take it from that time? Because now we barely make any memories together, which I actually regret. That's my only regret I have. But when I left, when I went back last year, I was also worried, like, can we pick up where we left? Is something different, or will everything be the same? And I talk a lot to my friends as well. Yeah. And it was all the same. It was like I just came, like I went for a holiday for maybe like 4 weeks, and then I came back, and then I saw my friends, and nothing has changed. And so that's the part where I'm so grateful for as well.
See, that's the thing, like if you're, even if you're not involved in their life every day, you know what's happening with them, and that's what keeps you all bonded, you know. So you have something to talk about, you have something to bond over with. And that we should be grateful for that. Like we have friends, and they understand us, they give us our space. And we are still talking to each other even after so many years. So even after we meet, say after 10 years, we'll still be the same people, right?
You still have the same values.
Exactly.
Like the core is kind of what keeps you guys together, because ups and downs, as you said, it wasn't always rainbows and unicorns when you were at school or high school or uni or whatever. But these ups and downs also made it a strong relationship, right?
True.
So, and that's what I'm trying to tell myself here as well with new friends. It won't always be great. They will disappoint you. You will disappoint them. That's just how life works and how humans are. And we all have different expectations. And so it will happen. And I try to tell myself, don't be too sad about it, because just because someone might have disappointed you doesn't mean that it's not a great friend, because you had that with your best friends and you grew on it, and you have maybe a time where you don't spend too much time together, and then you come back and you spend a lot of time. So.
I totally relate with this, because I've had a very recent and a very fresh scenario with a friend. And like I sometimes feel it's too much to ask or to keep expectations when we are all trying to be involved. But it's sometimes you just cannot live up to those expectations. So it's just fair that you get disappointed and then you make up. It's all circle of life. It's life. So it's just...
I'm coming back now right to the start, because I find it so fascinating how you said that your dad was in the Navy and he traveled around a lot. So where have you been when you were a child or when you were younger? Was it already all over the world? Or
No. Because of my dad's position and because he was in the Navy, we used to roam around in India a lot. Because he used to get transferred a lot. And to be very honest, I am so grateful he was in the Navy, because we got to see so many places because of him. Not just that, I got to make so many friends because of that. I changed school every 3 years, I guess. So I was that adaptable with making friends. Where on the other hand, my sister used to have a lot of problems
Yeah.
making friends, but she used to rely on me. So every now and then, when she didn't have any friends, or if somebody was just being very tough on her, I would go and spend time with her during my lunch breaks in school. But yeah, I'm really grateful because we spent most part of our life in Bombay, in Mumbai. That's where I was born and brought up.
Yeah.
We moved around after I was born, and my sister was born in a different location than me. So that was nice. She was born in Rajasthan, Jaipur, Rajasthan, which is the desert of India.
Yeah.
So it's funny because both of us are very fair complexion.
Yeah.
And all of our family members are really dark skinned. So it was very unique to all the neighbors when my sister was brought home, and she was this really skinny little girl. Oh, I love her.
Oh, that's so cute.
But yeah, so that was the southwest Bombay. That's where Bombay is, where I grew up, where we've lived. And just because my family is also so spread out, my joint family, you can say, extended family is so spread out. My maternal grandparents live in the north of India. So they're still there. My parents are originally from north of India.
Yeah.
My dad moved down and traveled a lot before we came into his life.
Yeah.
So he moved around a lot too, obviously because he was commissioned into Navy, and then he had to go through a lot of trainings, and he was posted in different locations in India. So that made him travel a lot. And then because my grandparents were in north of India, we used to travel every summer vacation to visit them.
Yeah.
My paternal uncles, my dad's brothers, are in you can say west of India, the desert.
Yeah.
So we used to visit them sometimes.
Yeah.
Some of my uncle and aunts are also in the capital of India, which is near Delhi.
Yeah.
We used to visit them there sometimes. And of course, I was born and brought up in Bombay, so we were in Bombay and in and around, because my father is really fond of traveling a lot. So he used to take us to different places, and he wanted to inculcate that into us from a very young age, that you should see things as much as you can, as long as you can, and just make the most of it. So we traveled to south of India. We lived there for about a month. Then we moved to the islands of India. It's called Andaman and Nicobar Islands, and it's very close to Indonesia. Ooh. So we spent 2.5 years, almost close to 3 years in those islands. And honestly, I think it's the best place that I've been to in India.
Wow.
It's the most serene, most untouched beaches that I've ever seen in my life. Wow. And I don't think Mumbai beaches match that. Like they nowhere match that. But this was also, again, so many years ago, before everything just got commercialized, and people knew about these islands more than they knew before. So
wow, I love that. Like, for me, as a person who loves traveling, and I remember I just developed it really slowly, and my parents went on vacation with us and traveled a little bit around to see, mainly in Europe. But just that sense of traveling, when you explain to you, when you just say it, that your dad was like trying to really get you everywhere to explore and to have that adventure. Oh, it feels so good.
Yeah, I know. So he would even go out of his way to plan trips. Even when he didn't have the time. Even if he had 2 days off, he would plan a trip with us. So I think that's how I got that knack of traveling, or just like, love to travel.
That's great. Oh, I mean, I don't want to say I'm jealous, because I'm pretty sure my parents did the best they could. But sometimes, how you now say your sister's in Canada, and the family is spread out. I
Yeah.
think it's nice that I grew up in a place where my family was so close together. But now, since I'm the one who's going out, I wish I wouldn't be the only one from my family.
Yeah.
Because I really would have loved to go and travel and visit extended family overseas if I would have some.
Yeah.
Because that gives you such great sense of independence. And I was always afraid of things like that, traveling alone and going by plane by myself. That was such a mission.
Yeah.
So I wish I would have learned that a little earlier on, just to be more comfortable with it.
But then no time's lost, so you can,
Exactly.
you can still make up for it.
It happened and just took a little more time.
Yeah.
So
And you're already traveling so much, so
yeah.
isn't that great?
Yeah. And I really can feel like your English is really, really good. Is it true that in India, most things like books and everything are in English? Or
So that's something. It's interesting, isn't it? Because India has so many languages,
yeah.
and every time I get asked, "How do you know English?" I'm like, because English is
I
one
just
of the
do.
languages. So I guess because we were taught in a school which was primarily in English, as a kid, we
Yeah.
have learned English.
But not just as one subject?
No. So all our books, all the teachings were done in English.
Wow, okay.
And then we had subject languages, which obviously had English again.
Yeah.
And then we had, of course, Hindi, which is like the most spoken most spoken language in the country.
Yeah.
And like some ancient languages like Sanskrit, which I think.
Wow.
Yeah, I love that. I love the language, although I can't speak it, but I can understand a few words. So we've been tried to get that knowledge too as a kid. Of course, there are different boards in India that only do a certain type of teaching. So I guess if you go to the more rural parts of India, you'll have more native languages.
Yeah.
And again, as I said, my parents are from north of India. They can speak that language from there, and they've learned Hindi because that's again the most spoken language in the country. And so I think the best way I can describe you about me knowing how I know English is that there are different boards of education in India.
Yeah.
And every board gets classified. I think primarily if you are more in a more urban place, like a more city area, you would learn English as the main language because that's how your books are printed.
Yeah.
But when I used to go back to my my grandpa's place, I would see the same books that I had, but printed in Hindi.
Yeah.
So it was just a shock to see the same thing translated into a different language.
Yeah.
And sometimes it took me a while to understand what it was in Hindi because I was so used to, reading everything in English. But that's just how things were. Like from early on, our education was all done in English. So
Yeah. Which helps.
Yeah. It was a big part of our life. Like even being from Maharashtra, which is the state where Mumbai is.
Yeah.
Not every school has English as a language.
Yeah.
So Marathi, which is like the most spoken language in the state, is something that every school would have.
Yeah.
But again, I did not study that.
Yeah.
So I think it's just how different schools and education works in India.
Yeah.
So I think that's like the biggest part.
Yeah, so you could still come across someone who wouldn't be able to speak fluent English because they might have come from a place.
So my mother, she can't speak in English because she's never learned English.
Yeah.
Whereas my father, he never learned in English either because both of them came from north of India where English is not the biggest language that has been spoken by everyone.
Yeah.
But he moved to south of India for, his training in the Navy. And that's where he started learning it. I mean, of course, there is, as I said before, as a kid, in the school, you get introduced to these subjects as languages.
Yeah.
But no one really studies them unless you are actually starting to practice it with, someone.
Yeah.
So I guess that's why my mom never learned English. So she never speaks English. I mean, she understands a few words here and there.
Yeah.
She can speak a very broken English, but she can't have a conversation in it.
Yeah. I think it's the same for my mom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So although she is bilingual, like you cannot like look at her and tell her, oh, she can't speak in English, maybe she cannot speak in any other languages. No, she can speak in 2 different languages.
Yeah.
And both are from India. So it's just so, how do I say it? Like it's very exciting and interesting to see that even though you don't know English in Mumbai or in India, it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
Although some people would like to make it a big deal in city lives, where English becomes a very big part of their culture.
Yeah.
And yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
I think for us it was always English is the world language. So we had it as a subject, and I think now they even start earlier and earlier to teach children. But as you said with your mom, if you don't practice it, you know something, you understand something, but if you don't use it actively,
Often,
you won't be ever really fluent. So my English just got so much better since I'm in New Zealand. I know so many more words, and even now I would say like, oh my god, my vocabulary could be so much wider. But slowly, and I have to use it every day. I don't speak German most of the time. So
do you get the feeling that you're forgetting your own language, that you feel so much at ease at?
Sometimes,
like, yeah.
It's a word when you talk, and all of a sudden the English word is first in your mind, not the German word, and you are like struggling to find the German word. But then it's the same thing with English. Sometimes I have the German word in my mind, and then I'm trying to find the English word. So, but yeah, I feel like I'm not good in anything anymore.
Yeah.
Not perfect in English, not perfect in German.
You're bilingual. Which is a perfect thing. You know what? My grandma, she can't speak in English, she can't speak in Hindi. The only language that she speaks is a dialect from the state that she is from. So it sometimes gets really difficult because there are these English words that I do not know the Hindi translation for. And we can communicate in Hindi, but she's not very fluent in it. So sometimes the dialect comes out and I'm like, oh, what are you trying to say? Like, I don't understand it. So it's finding that common factor, and as long as you understand the body language, you just understand what they're trying to say.
Yeah. I mean, of course, it's so much easier if you speak the same language, but you will get by somehow.
Exactly.
And, you will end up coming to the same conclusion.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. What has been your best overseas experience so far?
I recently went to Europe.
Was it the first time?
It was the first time, and I'm pretty sure it's not going to be the last. I absolutely love Europe. I cannot believe that I waited this long to go to Europe. We went to Amsterdam actually, to attend my boyfriend's sister's wedding.
Yeah.
So she got married to a Dutchman. Woohoo! Diversity. But yeah, it was the most beautiful wedding I've seen in such a long time. And honestly, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I met so many of their friends. I made them my friends. So that was cool. It was really, really nice to see the Dutch culture. And honestly, I missed seeing and experiencing culture, because here in New Zealand you don't have as much culture, as much as you would find in European countries or in India. Because I come from a country that is so dense in culture and tradition, we cannot escape from it. And that is something that I missed. And when I went there, it was so refreshing to see that again.
Yeah.
and I felt so connected with everybody that I met, and it's just very not natural and organic that I felt with everybody there.
Yeah.
I did not speak a word of German. I did not speak a word of Dutch, but I could get by easily.
Yeah.
And I know everybody scared me to death that I would not survive in Germany, but trust me, I did. I'm so glad that people there could actually understand me, and they could actually speak in English. Again, coming back to the language.
Yeah.
It's just a common ground, finding the common ground, and
Yeah.
as long as you understand the body language, you understand the person, what they're trying to say,
Yeah.
you get by
And
easily.
I think just if you kind of come with good intention,
Yeah.
people can sense that. Like,
Yeah.
people won't feel like scared or in danger or anything like that. So they will know, okay, this is a person who needs help, or a person who needs to find a way, or whatever it is. I also think, there have been so many people out there, like even like 60 years ago, traveling around without knowing the language. They have managed to do that somehow.
That so can be.
Exactly.
But yeah, it was the best time I ever had. And I'm so looking forward to my next trip. I'm planning to go to Canada next. So
Yay, visiting your sister?
visiting my sister.
Nice.
Go see the Niagara Falls.
Oh, yeah.
I'm very much looking forward to it.
Yeah.
I actually cannot wait to go back to Amsterdam again. It's the nicest place. I don't know why, but somehow it reminded me of Mumbai. It's just seeing so many people after such a long time.
Yeah.
It's I don't know why, but walking on those streets, walking in the city in Amsterdam, it just felt so lively. And I think I live for that, and I kind of miss that.
Yeah.
And I'm really looking forward to whenever I go back next. I think I might just go back next year.
Why not?
Yeah,
Make it your annual trip.
Annual trip, right? Now I have family there.
Exactly.
But yeah,
I'm
looking forward to it whenever it comes.
Right. It's kind of moving into our last bit, because every episode we end with the quick 3 questions, which is like giving just an answer with just one word or one sentence.
Okay.
And you kind of touched on it already, so it will be super easy for you.
Like a rapid fire question.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
So, number 1, which country could you imagine living in after your Europe trip? And you have seen already quite a few places in this world. Which place could you imagine living in?
Amsterdam. No doubt.
I thought so. That's why I was like, okay, let's dive into our quick 3. Number 2, what do you miss the most about Mumbai, India?
Street food. I miss the street food. It is irreplaceable. Like, nobody can actually duplicate it ever.
Yeah. I feel like food comes up
Food
so
comes first.
often in this podcast. So many people, which is absolutely fair enough.
But street food is this one that stands out. Yeah.
All right, last, what do you love the most about New Zealand?
I think I love the nature.
Yeah.
I think I love the peace and quiet.
Which is so funny, right? We just talked about how you missed it.
I know.
But yeah, I think, do you feel the same way, that you want to have most of your time in peace and quiet, but then every now and then get out and get like the full Mumbai experience with people, nightlife and all of that?
Definitely, yep. I think I just contradicted myself when I said I like the peace and quiet, but I also enjoy going out and being, out there.
Yeah.
I definitely miss that, but I think everything needs a balance. So
yeah,
I definitely want my peace and quiet, but I also want to have the party life, the going out, getting together with friends and family.
Yeah.
So, in a nutshell, I want to have my cake and eat it too. Yeah.
If possible, I want everything.
Yeah, I want everything. Yeah, that's the moral of the story.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
My goal as well is to make it somehow happen that I can live in New Zealand, because I also love the peace and quiet and less people and just really doing my job and doing things. But then I need sometimes a little bit more action. I need a little bit more variety. I need to see new things, and I need to see my family and friends. So if I can also have the cake and eat it too, that's my goal.
Wish we could have everything in life.
Well, we can definitely work for things. So let's see how it will end up in the future.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, Rajni. It was a pleasure to talk to you.
I enjoyed talking to you too. I love this.
Thank you.
You should invite me again.
Oh, I will. I feel like we haven't even touched other parts, so there will be
Part 2.
Exactly. So thank you everyone for listening. So I hope you enjoyed this episode wherever you are, whenever, if you're walking your dog, if you sit somewhere and have some spare time, if you're in an airplane, traveling around and getting excited for your new adventure. Enjoy this episode, and I hope I hear you next time as well. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.